Okay, we got some really dramatic news from Tesla regarding Tesla superchargers, and this news will affect both Tesla owners and non-Tesla owners who use the Tesla superchargers that are open to all CCS2 vehicles. Stand by, this is a blockbuster. So we're just going to go back very quickly and look at the history so you understand what's happening. 12 years ago, 2012, Tesla started the supercharging network. It was part of their strategy to help sell more cars. They realized people wouldn't buy EVs if they couldn't do road trips or longer distances, and they were restricted to whatever range they had from their home charger. So they started the supercharger network. Now, because Tesla made the cars, they made the factories, they made the chargers themselves, they make the computers themselves, they are absolutely self-contained. They realized that these chargers didn't need any fancy screens or contactless pay, anything like that, because all they had to do was put a computer in them, and then that computer could talk to the car computer, could talk to the Tesla main head office computer, and they all talk to each other quite happily. So a charger, a supercharger, didn't need any controls. And that's what they did. So they linked the whole of the system together, and it still applies today. It's a fully integrated circuit. So when you buy your first Tesla, whether it's new or used, you will be asked to set up an account with Tesla, and into that you'll put your details, and part of that will be your payment method, which could be Apple Pay, Google Pay, it could be a bank direct debit, back system, it could be a debit card, contactless credit card, it could be American Express. There's a load of variations. So you put that in and they store that's your payment method. So for us as Tesla drivers, we had access to every single Tesla supercharger in the whole of the world. They're all the same to us. You just drive into one, you back into it, 99% you back into. And because Tesla know where the charger port is, which in a Tesla is always on the rear passenger side quarter. Even today on the Cybertruck and the Model 2 will have this. They're all in exactly the same place. And so the chargers themselves were put into the bay on the rear left quarter, and they had relatively short cables. So when you back in, that's it. You just get out of your car. When you take out the plug, there's a button on it. You press that button and your car opens its charger flap. You don't have to do it from inside. You don't need to open an app. You don't need an app at all. You just pull the plug out of the charger, press the button, your flap pops open, you plug it in. And that is Tesla supercharging. There is nothing else to do. You don't have to tell it which port you're at or anything, because what will happen is the charger computer will talk to the car computer, will talk to the Tesla main computer in California, now in Texas, and they all just go, yeah, I know this car, we've got payment method, let's start the charge. We know it's set 70% state of charge maximum, let's just charge it. And that's it, we walk away. So for us, charging is never a hassle. We don't ever need an app. We don't ever need an RFID. We don't ever need a payment card of any sort. It's all at Tesla already. So when we pull in, it's just literally take the plug, press the button, plug it in, walk away. And when it's finished, just the opposite. We press the button, unlocks it, take it out, put it back in the charger, shut the port, set off driving, because the car has already told the charger, and the charger already told the car what it's got. They know the price, and so consequently they just take the payment from your saved payment method. It's a really simple system, and I regularly get accused of just being so blasé about charging. To me, it has never, ever, ever been a single issue. I back in, plug in, walk off. When I'm ready, come back. We do have an app. The app really just tells you, in this case, where your state of charge is. So you don't need to go back to the car to have a look. And you can set an alarm so that when your car gets up to the state of charge you set, an alarm goes off, you go back and move it. It's simple as that. And that was fine. Then in 2022, Tesla decided, for financial reasons, they were offered a huge incentive to open up their chargers to everyone. And this created a really big problem because there was no way of operating these chargers, they were called V2s and V3s, There was no way of operating them from the charger. There was no screen, there were no buttons, no switches, no dials, and there was no payment method. So it was impossible to use them. They also had very short cables because all Tesla cars, when they back in, they're within a couple of feet of the charger, and yet some of the others, they hid their charger ports all around the car. The opposite wing, it was just a nightmare. So what Tesla did was they came out with an app. They said, right, well, we'll write an app for you. And they wrote that app, and that app is readily available, totally free of charge, don't need to pay any money, but you do need to put a payment method into it. So that will then be stored on the Tesla computer. And now when a non-Tesla arrives at a Tesla supercharger, they'll just use an app. It's really simple. The challenge with that, forget the cable for a minute, I'm going to come back to that, but the challenge with that was that there was a law passed around about this time which stated they really need to simplify the charging process. And in order to do that, every single charger above 8 kilowatts must have its own screen and buttons so you can control it, and it must have a payment method which is contactless. Now, it could have multiple screens, multiple buttons, doesn't matter. It can have RFID, it can have all sorts of things, but it had to have a contactless payment method. So anyone, anywhere, just like in a petrol car, could just go up, swipe your card, get a charge. They also had to have the screen. So what the app did, the app was the screen for the charger in effect, and you could then tell it, look, I'm at this charger, here's what I want to do, here's my state of charge, and it was just operating that charger from an app. But the law that said all public chargers have to have contactless also said you must be able to operate them without an app. And again, this was to simplify this ridiculous system whereby people had 5, 6, 15 apps on their phone. What the law said was you're not allowed to have apps at all. You can have them if you want, but they mustn't be your only method of operating them. And you can have any other payment method you want, RFID or I don't know, whatever it is, but you must have a contactless. So this worked fine for a little while, but in the long run, it was always going to be a problem, because when the law came in, they gave Tesla dispensation. They said, okay, you don't have to have a screen on your chargers. To try and retrofit the whole of the V2 and the V3 network throughout the whole of the UK, the whole of the world, it's just, no, you're not going to do it. So we'll waive that for you. But this law comes into effect on the 24th of November. By then, you've had 2 years. You'll have had time to come up with a solution that suits us. And there are several. I'm not going to go into them, but there are several. So we're now on the 15th of November. So in less than 10 days' time, this law comes into force. And this law could make V2 and V3 chargers illegal because they don't have a contactless payment method and they do not have a screen, and they must be operated through an app. These are one of the questions that we've got. Let me just go back one stage. Knowing that this was going to happen, Tesla in 2023 switched chargers. They just said, right, we're not going to make those anymore. Let's make a V4. And the V4 has a payment method on it. It's got contactless. It also has a screen. And also because of the ridiculous place these other EV makers hide their ports all over the car, they put it's about 4.5 meter cable. You can practically charge any car from anywhere on the car park. It's really long cable. So 2023, that was the first of them. And they started actually, the very first one in the world went in the Netherlands. And the second one and the third one went in the UK. And we were ahead of the whole world, apart from Netherlands. We're probably ahead of them in other ways still. So we got our V4 chargers. So one went in Tottenham, one went in, I think it was actually in Devon. Can't remember, and it's not relevant. So all the new chargers going in now are V4s, and the V4s fully compliant with the 24th of November regulations. They have a screen, they have a payment method, and you can, at any V4 charger that is designated as open to all CCS2 cars, You can drive in, you can swipe your card, you can plug in and you can charge. You don't need an app, you don't need anything else. It's all done now on the terminal. Of course, us Tesla drivers, we don't use that. If we look at the screen, it says, check your app or check your car for details. Yeah, we don't use it. And the idea of using a contactless card, how quaint. We haven't used that for years. I haven't used it since I've had the car, not as a Tesla supercharger, because you can't. So that's where we are. So we've got the 24th of November coming up, and it is very likely that there's going to be a ruling which says 24th of November, no exceptions, everyone must obey the law. And that law will make it illegal for Tesla to offer their V2 and their V3 chargers to anyone other than Tesla. Still legal to offer them to Tesla because it's a closed circuit. It's not a public charger. It's a Tesla charger for Tesla owners and Tesla members, but they can't offer them to the public. So over the last 2 years, Tesla's been rolling out these open to all superchargers. And in the early days, most of those were V2s and V3s because that's all they had. The V4 didn't come out till 2023. Since 2023, all the new ones going in have been V4s, and these are fully compliant. So coming up to the 24th of November, unless the law changes and they once again offer Tesla a waiver or dispensation for their chargers, then they're going to become illegal to be used by anyone other than a Tesla owner. And for Tesla owners, a lot of people will absolutely love this because I'm going to show you a video. It's a time lapse of one of the busy Tesla superchargers. It's Tesla only, limited specifically, so no other cars. But what it does, we were there about 30 or 40 minutes, that's all. And I have to say, when we arrived, there was one car there, 7 bays empty. When we left, there was one car there, 7 bays empty. In between time, cars just came and went at a phenomenal pace. This was a little over half an hour. And at one point, the whole charger was full, all 8 bays were full, other times 3 or 4 was full. But what it showed is that Tesla cars at Tesla superchargers don't sit there for an hour, don't sit there for even half an hour. The average Tesla was in there. You can time it yourself. It's on the time lapse. In and out, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. That's it. A couple of them were there longer. They were obviously in having a meal, but we don't hang about. And when the open to all chargers using the V2s and V3s were first offered, it was a horrific sight for us Tesla drivers to find a Mini, which has got maximum charging rate of 50 kilowatts, something crazy. Yeah, okay, don't even go there. Plugged into one of these things and sitting there trying to get to 100% and sitting there for an hour. That's not the way Tesla operates. So for many people, they'll welcome the fact that if they do, that these V2 and V3 chargers just come back to Tesla. It will mean that we Tesla drivers, having paid for the car and paid towards the Tesla supercharger network, we'll be able to use it exclusively and we won't be blocked. That's that. Now, go back one other step. On the 11th of September this year, I made a video. It was all about the crazy charging speeds of V4, of open to all chargers. And I'm going to cover that one now because this is the next blockbuster that's just been announced. So your typical location, you've got a substation in green, you've got the cabinet, usually white or off-white, cream, ivory, whatever colour you call it, and then you've got the chargers themselves. It's really simple. And the power coming out of the chargers is designed specifically for Teslas, obviously. And Teslas, every single one in the world, apart from the Cybertruck now, but every single car is on a 400 volt architecture. That means the battery power is all interlinked and series and parallel, whatever it is, but it runs on 400 volts. And so every single charger in the world up until today is 400 volts. Really simple. Why would you make anything else? There are some cars which don't use 400 volt architecture, they use 800, and it is more efficient. It is better. You can get more power through. You can use lighter cable because the higher the voltage, the lower the current, and it's the current that overheats cables. So some of the cars coming out, these will be Hyundai Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, Kia EV5, EV6, it's the Lotus Electra, it's the Porsche Taycan. All of these have 800 volt architecture, so they can charge very fast. But of course, if anyone knows anything at all about voltage, if you try and charge an 800 volt car from a 400 volt supply, it doesn't work. You have to have more voltage than you're replacing. So with a battery, for example, a battery pack in a Tesla, I'm just going to call it 400 volts. It isn't, because it varies. When you first charge it up, the voltage goes up quite high, and as you drive it, the voltage starts dropping. And at a certain point, it drops to a position where the car battery management system says, right, we're flat, we can't go any further. And that's never zero. If you plug in an 800 volt car into a 400 volt charger, nothing happens. Now, the Hyundai, the Kias and the Porsches and the Lotus, they knew all this. And so they would want to make sure that their cars can charge at some of the 400 volt chargers, because there were an awful lot of them about. And so what they do, they put a doubler in. So when you put 400 volts in, there's a circuit inside, transformer, it just doubles it up to 800. And now you can charge from a 400 volt charger, which is absolutely fine. But of course, in the world of electronics and electrics, you never get anything for nothing. So if you double the voltage, you halve the current. Simple as that. You can't make up power. So something like a Porsche Taycan, if you plug in to a 400 volt charger, which you can do, then it will take 400 volts, it will double it up to 800, halve the current, and the car in that converter, that doubler, will have a limit, and that limit on the basic Porsche Taycan is 50 kilowatts. Yeah. So you can plug in a Porsche Taycan to a 400 volt Tesla supercharger, a V3, and you'll get 50 kilowatts. That's it. Never get any more. You can't. If you want more, when you order your Porsche Taycan, you can ask for a tripler or a quadrupler, whatever it is, and they will then give you one which actually allows you to charge up to 150 kilowatts, 3 times the speed. But that's it. You'll never get the full speed out of a 800 volt car at a 400 volt charger. So all the chargers, all the superchargers are 400 volts, simple as that. And so for us Tesla drivers, that's fine. Every single Tesla car up until the Cybertruck is 400 volts. Every single Tesla charger, 400 volts. Everything works perfectly. We have no problem. But of course, when these Hyundais and Taycans and Porsches started going into the open to all, they needed more. And Tesla realized that they can't get away with this anymore if they're going to open up to everyone. So last year they brought out the V4. First of them in the UK, Netherlands and the UK, and these were reported to be future-proof. That was the advertising claim. Yet when you go and have a look at one, look at the label on it, it says 400 volts. Wait, it actually says 500 volts. But it's limited to 500 volts, and I think it's 425 amps. So you get your 250 kilowatts out of it. So that doesn't do anything at all. So if you take a Porsche Taycan to a V4, you're still going to get 50 kilowatts if you've got the basic Taycan. Okay, so what's changed? What's changed is they've just made an announcement that the V4 dispensers, they call it, these are the chargers, have always been capable of 1,000 volts, so Porsche Taycan easily, and they've always been capable of 500 kilowatts, twice what they're doing at the moment, but they've been restricted by the cabinets. The cabinets are V3 cabinets. They're the ones they use on the V3 chargers, and they only give 500 volts. So all that's happened now is they've said, right, we're launching the V4 cabinets. We don't need to touch the chargers. The V4s and the V3s and the V2, they're all capable of 1,000 volts, and they're all capable of 500 kilowatts of charging power, but they just don't get it from the cabinet. So what they're doing now is they're saying that from January 2025, they will be installing cabinets that will run at 1,000 volts, and they'll be running at 625 amps, which is 625 kilowatts. Now, it's going to be throttled back, but they're going to be able to give 500 kilowatts, And they're also simplifying it so one cabinet, instead of just at the moment doing two chargers, one cabinet can do 8. It's going to dramatically increase the speed with which they can install these things, the infrastructure, the cost of it, everything. And they're also using very, very sophisticated internal electronics, state of the art. Tesla never just puts into a new product an old technology. So what's happened is these V4 chargers are now rated at 500 kilowatts and up to 1,000 volts. So good news to all you Hyundai, Kia, Porsche and Lotus drivers. You'll now be able to get proper charging speeds from the new ones. Now, are they going to do anything with the old? Not at the moment. What they've announced is that all future ones, they're going through a licensing process at the moment. They have to get it approved from the DNOs, the grid, to make sure they're safe, and they have to get it approved for everything else. But as soon as that approval is given, every single new installation of a V4 charger will have the V4 cabinets in. So there'll be 1,000 volt capable and there'll be 500 kilowatt power. Simple as that. So Tesla came out with a statement. I'm going to read it out to you word for word. What they're offering is faster charging. The V4 cabinet will support 400 to 1,000 volt vehicle architectures, including 30% faster charging for Cybertruck, and the sexy range, that's the S, the 3, the X and the Y, which are currently 250 kilowatt, they will experience a 30% increase in speed of charging. Really interesting. And that means they're going to be able to offer about 200 miles of charging in 15 minutes. They're going to be much faster deployment because you've got one V4 cabinet can now do 8 posts. So if you're doing a 16, you only have to put 2 cabinets in. So it's twice what it was before. Got lower footprint, lower complexity, more sites coming online faster. They've got next generation hardware, not the cabinet. Cabinet's fine, they'll do. It's the inside bit. It's all cutting edge power electronics designed to be the most reliable on the planet with 3 times the power density, enabling higher throughput with lower costs. The first sites with V4 cabinets are going into permitting now, first opening in 2025. Now, that's the end of the quote, by the way. My conjecture here is because we were the first, second after Netherlands, first to get the V4 chargers before America, we may well get these new V4 cabinets before America. So what's that mean is that when these new ones go in, the 800 volt architecture cars will be heading for those like a shot because the speed you get out of them. First of all, the 500 kilowatts, there's no other chargers out there, 500 kilowatts. And secondly, they'll be the full 1,000 volt capable. And that means whatever the car asks, it'll get. You'll be able to get blistering speeds. So what's going to happen then is we've got a problem because when the Model 2 is launched, that is going to be on the 800 volt architecture. But that gives it a problem because it won't be able to use properly all the existing V2, V3 and V4 chargers that are not the cabinet 4. And therefore they have to do something. So they're going to put a doubler in or a quadrupler or a trebler, whatever it is. But those will halve the current each time, and that means they're going to take longer. And so in order to get the Model 2 or the Tesla Cybertruck or any of the future cars, 800 volt architecture to charge at full speed, they're going to have to go to one of the new charger locations with V4 chargers and V4 cabinets. But all they have to do on the rest of the site is just take the V3 cabinets, which are 500 volt at the moment, just take some of the inside out, put some new stuff in, and it's a V4 cabinet, and it's 1,000 volts, and it's 500 kilowatts. So there will be a process of upgrading on a regular basis for the future. So there's going to have a demand for getting the new chargers in quickly. Any of the sites coming up for completion, which are very close to completion, they will almost certainly get the new V4 cabinets. And I've got a feeling that we in the UK, we're going to get the first of them as well. So we're going to be ahead of America. So it's all good news. So we're going to keep you in touch with that as to when the first of these are going to come in. But what it is a massive boost because it was only a few months ago I was getting comments saying, oh, Tesla's closed down its supercharging department. They've sacked everyone. They're selling all their superchargers. They don't want them anymore. BP's going to buy them. There was a load of rubbish, and yet today, what have we got? Tesla from 2025 will have the most powerful EV chargers on the planet. 500 kilowatts rated at 1,000 volts. Yeah. And that is now for all future ones. So my conclusion, I think Tesla will not do any retrospective upgrades for probably a period of 6 months, but later in next year, I think you're going to start seeing some of these sites being upgraded, particularly the busy ones, because at the moment, if you have a Hyundai or Kia and you can charge at 300-400 kilowatts, whatever your rating is on the car, what's stopping at the moment is the charger itself. But if they can get rid of that bottleneck and give you 500 kilowatts, you'll be in and out in a shot. So that's where we are. There's going to be 2 follow-ups. The first one is going to be 24th of November, when we hear exactly what's happening. Either the old V2s and the V3s are going to close down to from open to all, or there'll be a new waiver. We'll report it either way. And as soon as the first of these new V4 cabinets goes in, we'll be there to report it, because we predicted it back in September. There we go. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please click the like button. If you want to see more and keep up to date, get the news first, then please subscribe. Click the notification bell. We'll notify you every time we launch a video. So thanks very much. I'm Dave.